Hello and welcome everyone, I am Madals and welcome to another StarCraft 2 England cast. Today guys, I have got a game between Proxy, the red Terran player in the top right, who is up against Adel Scott, who is of course the blue Protoss player in the lower right, and Proxy, I love this reaction here. Holy crap, is that really you? Like clearly this has just made his StarCraft career being up against Adel Scott. He's just like, oh my god, like a serious pro player. I'm so happy right now. And it's brilliant. It's like, I don't know if you get this like in other sports, but like some games they'll like have pros come along to a session, or like Olympians come along to like a local session or something, and there's always like the little kid who's always like, oh my god, I'm so excited, and it's like, it's just another person. It's all cool. But of course that affects everyone regardless of how little or how old you are. If you meet your hero, it can make your life. Anyway, so it is a TvP, and well, this means exciting times where we should see, well, probably from the Terra Marine Marauder medevac. It's pretty much the standard. There's some other openings, but they're a lot more narrow in their sort of targeted mid-game, because if you don't really work with, say, something like a tank push or something similar, you can end up with some issues. Now, obviously, Adel going to be going. There's lots of different options actually available to Protoss players against Terran. It's really quite a nice matchup for them because they do have sort of some solid things they need to think about. Like, obviously, once an infantry ball does kind of get built, then you do have to start thinking, hang on, do I need to consider things like Colossi, High Templar with Storm? Archons are also a viable option, although not ideal. And basically then you're kind of into the more late game, and obviously then Terran have their set options against Protoss, so Vikings for the Colossi, Ghost for the High Templar, and it really progresses on from there. But early game, obviously Adel going for a Nexus first, so this is a really different opening from these two players, and you can compare somewhat the openings of these two players purely just based on the fact that obviously a Rax before a command center is less economical than going a Nexus first, and it always will be that way. We do have the Forge coming down as well, so maybe we will see Adel go for some kind of cannon rush, which obviously is viable on this map because there isn't a neutral supply depot, which of course means that a cannon contain is possible. But here we go, we got the Marine coming out, and the Marine actually running straight through, so it'll be interesting to see what Adel does with this for the moment. Maybe it's can be some defensive cannons, that's also a possibility. Of course, Proxy now seeing the Nexus down, also going to see the Forge, so he's going to know that the threat is there. The probe in the main base of the Terran is able to still stay alive. That one Marine just like, would you just die already, is running away as best as it can, but of course the second Marine pops out just in time and gets picked off. We do see here now, of course, the first cannon on its way down, so this is a nice defensive position, and with the gateway as well, this is going to be pretty difficult for Proxy to really counter aggression against, and he's not going to anyway because he's got the command center on its way now. So it was a one Rax command center opening, which is very, very versatile, up against Adel's Nexus first into a Forge and then a gateway. So really the Protoss player in a nice spot, nothing really to worry about. The SCV is going to survive for an awfully long time in the main base though, which will give a lot of scouting information. We've got a second cannon coming down here as well, because after all it is quite a big ramp off area, and if there were some marauders that could end up being a bit of a problem. Now, I love this by Proxy going for a third command center super early on, so this is basically a one Rax command center into a third command center super early, and that could add into an awful lot of problems for Adel if there isn't some big pushes coming. That second cannon getting cancelled, and of course that just means that there was no big push coming, there was nothing to be super concerned about, and obviously that probe does then scout that the command center's on its way down, doesn't see the second one. The follow-up to barracks, that's absolutely fine. No gas yet at all for the Terran player. We can see for the Protoss, we do have both gas up, we've got the +1 armor on its way down. Of course, the reason you get armor against Terran is because most of their DPS comes from Marines. Now, basically, the reason armor is effective against Marines is, of course, because they only do 6 damage per hit, but they have a very fast attack speed. Now, if you reduce that damage by 1, that is obviously a big percentage damage decrease, whereas if you're using units that attack slower, then obviously the +1 damage isn't going to be that important, whereas obviously Terran, I think in pretty much every situation will go for +1 infantry weapons as their first upgrade, because of course going from 6 to 7 damage is also a big increase. So we'll see how this all does play out, but of course for the moment Adel looking to gear up with a good amount of upgrades, a good amount of, well, gateway units are on their way at last. We do have, of course, Cybercore researching that Warp Gate tech, the Twilight Council coming down, so 3 gate well, charged zealots are a possibility. They're a great way to shut down infantry early on. Obviously, blink stalkers are viable as an alternative, but I reckon charge is the most likely thing we'll see here, just to really close down these marines. It's possible, obviously, that does also open up the tech path into a Templar archives, and therefore getting out those high Templar and Archons. So charge zealot Archon is a very, very strong mid-game composition. Not very good late game, but exceptionally good in the mid-game area. So obviously we've got the second bunker coming down now. We've got the third gas coming as well. The double engineering base, so double upgrades coming down from Proxy. And now this is a very, very fast Templar archives on their way. Of course, the other thing that this Twilight Council obviously does is allow the +2 ground armor upgrade to be researched should Adel decide to go for that before any attack upgrades. So we'll wait and see how this does all play out for the time being. But of course, the double upgrades for the Terran will mean that he should eventually get the advantage, but he has actually cancelled one of those engineering bases. Oh no, he hasn't, he's just built it over the back there, so he's just put in a different position. We've got Stim half done for the Terran. That's of course a critical upgrade in this matchup, purely because Marines and Marauders without Stim against gateway units, it's a pretty even fight. The second Stim is researched though, well then gateway units become exceptionally good. Exceptionally bad rather against infantry, so that is really something that you can look at seeing. A lot of Terran players have timing pushes revolving around when Stim finishes. We do of course have the 1-1 upgrades on their way out, just starting now. These rocks are getting taken down to the third by Adel, so could be a signalling move that that third base is going to be coming down fairly soon. Warpgate tech done, Sonic Storm on its way. That Stalker just kind of coming back. Of course the rock's getting taken out towards the third here. The third orbit command is already done, but at the moment just being used to produce mules and SCV, so that's a good use of it at the time being. The two bunkers up, it's a good defensive position. We do have the reactor coming down, the starport coming down this factory, purely being used just to pump out add-ons, and probably after that first reactor, maybe one more, it will then just come and float down here to be the most expensive scout in the game, is the joke. Obviously all Terran players will know. Looking down here, what else do we have? Well, we of course have Storm getting chrono boosted, the +2 ground armor getting chrono boosted out as well. First Templars on the field now, so that's good there. Obviously Storm very strong against infantry, especially against Marines, deals huge damage. And looking around, obviously we should see the switch here. There we go, that is all fine. We've also got Ghost Academies coming down now. I'm not quite sure where that scout went off of the High Templar, because of course I don't know if there has been a scan, but if we take a look, there was a scan, so seeing all the critical check, that's absolutely perfect. The High Templar, of course, do now just have Storm kicking in, so that's brilliant. The third base down for Proxy. The third base half done there for Adel, who's walling off at the third base, so that's a good move in itself. It just means that you only really have to defend this one area critically. Of course, with a cannon there with Storms, that's quite easy to do. Now, both these players are being very defensive at the moment, so hopefully we'll see some action fairly soon. And of course, it looks like Proxy is moving his units around. He should come and sit them in the middle. This is really the best place, because then you're defending both bases fairly easily. The first medevacs are on their way, Blink on its way out as well. The 1-1 upgrade's just about to kick in for the Terran infantry. We also, of course, have the Mobius reactor upgrade on its way, combat shield on its way now, and of course, +3 Protoss ground armor is just getting started. So these players, in terms of the upgrade advantages, well, 1-1 against 0-2 is fairly similar. You could probably call it pretty much equal. But obviously with the double upgrades, assuming the Proxy keeps researching them, he will pull ahead eventually. Combat Shield is about to finish up, so this is a good little timing push to coincide with that. Stim is done as well, of course. I don't know, I can't remember if Concussive Shell is done. No, it isn't, so obviously only just one of those attacks really missing. Now, if some good storms go down, this could do some absolutely huge damage. It depends on how much attention is being paid, because that would be a good storm position. We do see quite a lot of damage done there with only the 2 medevacs. Gotta be careful with the energy on those, because they can't heal indefinitely. We've got another good storm hitting. Good micro out of Proxy though, who's pulling straight back. How much did he lose there? Well, not a huge amount, so that's pretty good, to be honest. He's pulling back. I think that's the right choice in this situation. He doesn't have enough units to deal with this. He needs those ghosts out ready to deal with the High Templar, so everything going precisely how he would want. And well, looking down here, of course, Charge getting chrono boosted out, so that's going to make these Zealots so much more effective against the Terran infantry, and really sealing the deal away from Stim. And in terms of upgrades, 2-2 on its way down, Ghost coming out, +3, 2/3 to 3/4 done for the Protoss player. 3 more gateways coming down here as well for Adel, who's going really gateway heavy. Also getting up the robotic facility, because it is important in late game, which we are creeping into now. I'd say really anything after about 13 minutes I consider the more late game. And well, you start having to think, hang on, High Templar on their own aren't enough, and that's because storms don't stack. So you can't go storm, 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 and it'll do 3 times the damage. You have to get something else out, and that's where Colossus can be very, very potent indeed. Now, quite a few of these medevacs are getting taken some damage. Grippling forward, they're trying to get into a good position. Some storms going down, and that storm does big damage to the medevacs. Of course, if you pick off the medevacs quickly enough, that infantry army becomes so much less viable. It is pushing forward, but some good storms going down, and that was actually an incredibly big storm, nearly doing full damage to all of the infantry. Those stalkers blinking forward yet again. Great play by Adel at the moment, and well, behind this, of course, some Archons morphing in. The +3 ground armor just about to kick in. The 2-2 upgrades for Proxy kicking in. A good scan. Case a look at the army positioning of Adel. What is he doing? What has he got out? In terms of the High Templar, there's only 2 on the field. One has enough energy for Storm already. The other one will do by the time this push comes in. The Observer is there as well, just to keep a good eye on what's going down. And this third base could be in problems because some bunkers trying to go down, but of course it is completely open. And now this is not a good attack angle for Proxy right now, because he does have all of his units in a tight little choke, which is just going to allow those Storms to do so much damage. The EMPs go off. They do manage to pick off most of the shields. The Archons do have some problems now. Of course, those Ghosts doing good target fire, trying to pick off the High Templar as fast as they can. But Adel smells blood, moving forward. Another good Storm goes down, but luckily, Proxy managing to pull back ASAP. The Archon numbers, though, are pretty high. 4 Archons on the field, a 5th one on the way. And, well, obviously those Stalkers dealing good damage. And Adel just in an absolutely amazing spot for the time being, warping in some more units behind this. And, of course, as you can see, Proxy losing pretty much all of his army. But those Stalkers are not going to engage well against Marine Marauder with medevac support and Stim. So they are pulling back quite wisely. In terms of the loss tab, surprisingly equal. Only 300 resources lost difference between these two, which at this stage of the game you can pretty much count out as, well, negligible. And in terms of the working count, obviously I was just looking at that there, 71 to 62 in the Terran's favour, so actually Proxy with a better income. And of course, without the Colossi on the field, Adel could be running into some problems because the ghost numbers, they were increasing. There's no ghosts on the field, they were all picked off there. So basically, if Proxy gets out a couple more ghosts, he's going to be an amazing spot. Adel taking his 4th base at the time being. There isn't a 4th command center down or even starting to be produced yet by the Terran. The Terran instead looking like he's going to start moving across the map, and with a 33 supply advantage, that is actually pretty potent. We've got more reinforcements coming along, and Adel needs to be careful of this engagement angle because, of course, these units on their own could be very, very strong. And of course, the Storm is not there yet. There's only the 1 High Templar, which does get an okay Storm, but of course the problem is that Marines and Marauders do big damage. But a 2nd Storm goes down, a 3rd Storm, and a lot of those units on very, very low health. And I think it's a wise move with Proxy pulling back there, allowing those medevacs to heal those up, because otherwise you'd not be getting a good engagement. We've got the first Archon, the first replacement Archon rather, warping in now. We do of course have an Immortal down there as well. That's going to help with Marauders as long as the target fire is good. And well, we've got more engagements coming in. Those infantry force is really being quite aggressive, trying to hold the center of the map. Adel trying to take out these rocks, add more attack arcs in, more positions, and that is really going to help him in order to get better surrounds, etc. Because of course attack angle later on in the game becomes so much more important because you are getting up to very sizable forces on both sides. And of course Proxy is getting up to, well, near the 200 mark. Adel only at about 140. In terms of the research, well, the robotics bay is done, but the first Colossus only just now getting started, and that robotics bay has been done for an awfully long time. Extended thermal lance also coming down, the +1 Protoss ground weapons on its way. 2-2 is already done, 3-3 halfway done for the Terran as well. So this Terran force is starting to get very, very scary indeed. The upgrade advantage is probably equal about now at 3-1 compared to 2-2. So obviously once those 3-3 upgrades kick in, that is going to be a big upgrade advantage there for Proxy. And well, as you can see around here, we've got more add-ons being added on. Obviously the 4th base just about to finish up as well, but Adel has had his 4th base up for quite a while. The scan goes off, takes a good look at this army. The first Colossus about to pop out, and that is going to be really good. But the rally point, I hope Adel realizes that rally point is not where it wants to go, because otherwise we could have a suicidal Colossus, which is never fun in the slightest. Now, obviously, looking down here, we do have most of the Terran infantry coming around the back, and the 5th base coming down from Adel at the time being. That Colossus has noticed that the rally point was wrong and is on its way back. Scans going down, sees absolutely everything, sees the Colossus obviously, and that should trigger the Viking production out of Proxy. But of course, at 200, he's going to have to do some supply somewhere. He's got a good number of ghosts, but those ghosts haven't cloaked yet. They do have cloaking field done, so I'm surprised they haven't cloaked up. Obviously, there are photon cannons there, but if they got a good cloak position, they could do some good damage, especially picking off the High Templar and also the Archons with some nice snipes and EMPs, etc. A planetary fortress coming down to the 4th base for Proxy. That is exactly what he should do, because you're starting to get a bit more spread out. We do have most of the Terran infantry force here now. We've got some great feedbacks going down on the ghosts at the time being. And, well, obviously this is going to be a tough engagement for both players. Some storms go down. Those storms absolutely brilliant and have forced Proxy back for the time being. Of course, the warping of units absolutely essential here for Adel. And only the one Colossus on the field at the moment. The second one sitting and chilling in the middle of the map. This is going to be pretty close in terms of engagement. The Terran attack angle is very nice indeed. And that one Colossus just doesn't seem to have enough damage at the time being. And Proxy is, well, 60 supply ahead already. And Adel could be running into some problems fairly quickly. The Immortal goes down. If that Archon gets focused as well, which it appears to be, then things is really starting to cause problems. But we'll have to pull back because that Colossus has been able to stay alive due to good micro by Adel. And without the Colossus, well, to be honest, this would have been very one-sided. That one Colossus has been able to clean up pretty much everything. It's got 18 kills on it already, now 20 at the time being. The second Colossus, where is it? It's just wandering across the map to its death. I really hope Adel notices that, otherwise that could be pretty embarrassing if this single Colossus just goes to die, and it looks like it really may. It is literally playing with fate. It's going to get spotted by all of these medevacs, so to be honest, that should get taken out exceptionally quickly by those two Vikings. So are we going to see it get taken down? Yes, we are. Those units stimming forward, quite a few dying. I'm surprised he didn't just use the Vikings alone, because there was no additional need to do that, to lose any units there. Looking around, the fourth base obviously up. The fifth base for Adel is up as well. In terms of worker count, what we're looking at 79 to 71 in favour of the Terran still, so with mules as well, that becomes pretty huge. In terms of units on the field, well, the second Colossus is just popped. We've got 3 Archons and 7 Zealots, as well as 5 High Templar. Adel very, very low on those units. A big wave of Warpins on its way, though. Obviously, Protoss supply does jump up quite heavily. This is massive, massive, massive oversaturation, because this Terran player is just mining this map out. Of course, nearly triple the amount of SCVs working there as I can actually mine at a time, so that is something that is going to get rectified by this fifth base. Of course, you can look at just floating your main over once these gas geysers are mined out, which is not actually too far away. They've only got about 500 gas each. Now, obviously, both players are playing pretty defensive again, and this is really into the late game now. And of course, with the +2 ship weapons on their way, and of course +3 Protoss ground weapons on their way, both these players really reaching kind of upgrade max. They're both playing very, very well at the moment. If we look at the APM, I mean, both over a 23-minute game, both be sitting at sort of 150 and 130. That's pretty good. Of course, that's the Blizzard APM, so it takes other things into account, of course. But looking here, what have we got? Well, we've got these SCVs getting picked off quite nicely, and this is something you do want to try and avoid, because obviously just 3 Stalkers being able to go to absolute town on SCVs is never something you want. Of course, they're going to be able to deny this third base as well. That's going to be very, very irritating, but we do have some cloaked ghosts moving forward now. A storm goes down and hits quite a few, but of course no observer in sight at all. There is one just sitting there at the moment, but I don't know if it has been seen for the time being, so obviously those ghosts could be effective. They did manage to get a few good EMPs off, so that is going to be very, very annoying indeed. A good scan, we'll see the observers. There is one more in the top position, which I don't know if it was spotted. The Viking count is very, very good though, up at 15, but only 3 Colossus on the field, so that is probably some wasted supply, even though they will go down exceptionally quickly. And here we go, we've got big engagement coming in. Those Vikings need to have a good angle of attack. Some great storms going down, and of course the air unit's taking absolutely massive damage. Another great storm from Adel there, and this engagement was not good for Proxy at all. All of those Colossi stay up, so many Archons stay up. The Vikings taking huge damage from the Archons. Of course, Archons do splash damage to air units. That one Colossus does survive, and well, Proxy is well and truly beat there in what was a very bad engagement, unfortunately, in what overall was a very good game. So, to be honest, I think Proxy could take a lot away from that of being well. I think his only fault was he could have expanded a bit quicker, because he does have a lot of minerals looking at the end of the game, and he did have some really nice engagements, actually. So, he has a lot to be proud of against someone like Adel, Scott. Anyway, guys, if you did enjoy, please subscribe, like the video, leave a cool comment, yada, 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 and I will catch you tomorrow for yet another new cast. And a quick shout out if anyone's going to I-47, of course, I will see you there, as I'm going to be doing some casting. So, look forward to that. Bye for now.